Welcome back, Dota 2 fans. Game 2, quarterfinals, effectively the finals of the NA Open Qualifiers for ESL One Genting 2018. Top 4 teams from this qualifier making it through to the closed qualification bracket. And so a win here would punch a ticket for either of these teams to make it through. Mike Loris, MRP here, chronicling the action for you. Mind's Eye taking game 1 with really just, as Mike said, better movement, better rotations in the first game, and a really good recognition of their power peaks in the game. And they played nice disciplined Dota in towards that early mid game with their advantage, taking the tier 2s out, taking Roche, taking the Shrine. So just kind of methodical from them. We'll see if their momentum carries over into this game too.
Shame on whoever created the lobby. They don't know how to do the win ticks. This is game 2 with Mind's Eye, Radiant being up 1 game. So gotta learn how to do that if you're gonna make your lobbies. But they do get their hands once again on the puck. The bans haven't really shifted at all after that last performance. Like, you could definitely first get away with first banning a puck. Maybe even first ban that Razor, although I do think Fuzzy Sloth had a lot of success, mostly because of the matchup inherently. Just he's completely safe in that lane. It is 100% not an issue for a Razor. So now dub Saren team from some anime, I think. I don't know. They're going to have the option of running back a very similar start, but I don't know. Earth Spirit Shadow Shaman is already a very powerful opening.
Yeah.
Maybe go for something like a Winter Wyvern. Haven't really seen much of her yet.
Yeah, and it is a hero that is held in high esteem by most teams in the pro scene right now. Definitely feels like Shadow Shaman and Earth Spirit were enough to get work done on the puck early on. Perhaps we kind of point to the sniper pick where, they maybe tunnel visioned it a little too much as an OD versus sniper matchup on paper, and they then had to spend a lot of their attention on their supports in towards the mid lane, which freed up some time for Aesthetics, who had a field day in that top lane early on, even getting a solo kill on the Luna. So maybe they go for a little bit more of a tanky support, but as you mentioned, perhaps the slight upper hand in the draft with that instant Razor response to the Abaddon just allowed for more flexibility for Mind's Eye's lane. Speaking of flexibility, again, they are going to go for the puck here, in that they can put him in more than one role and more than one lane. And we're actually going to see the Titan be picked up by the Dire, by the Mexican team inverse after here, as Mind's Eye going to get themselves a Clockwork. Very good early roaming hero is the Clockwork. Walks around level 1 with like 700 plus HP. So really hard, even with the disable offered to you by a Lion to kind of trade up against. So we'll see. We saw the Titan puck combination in the offlane for Mind's Eye in game 1. We'll see if they kind of stick with that theme and throw the Clockwork with the puck. But either way, still a lot of flexibility offered to them in this opening. Clockwork can be 4-3, puck 2-3, so still many options for them to choose.
Clockwork has some serious targets as well. Even if he is played in the support capacity, land a battery assault on a Lion, and that Lion is so dead. Even ET, you could throw out your Spirit and maybe get some damage from like a creep wave or a neutral camp or something like that, but you're not winning any duels there. Clockwork just does a little bit too much damage. So that threat, combined with the fact that Lion and Elder don't really have the largest effective range. ET has the Spirit, of course, and that does increase his range by quite a bit. But in the early game, I mean, like, he's got to get in there and actually punch things. And it's pretty hard to punch things when you have a wall of machinery in the way. So very nice, kind of safe pick to get from Mind's Eye's side, just to provide those barriers, keep the ET and Lion away, and really just, again, make those good counter rotations if actually needed. It's something that a hero like Slardar can do with the Crush, but that's just a one-off. You land a Crush, the enemies can still chase after you. You land Cogs, or wall off an entrance with Cogs, wall off a ramp or something. They're not getting through that. Yeah. Unless their face is void, I suppose. He could just jump right over it, but he's probably not going to want to do that.
So the Void pickup from Mind's Eye, I mean, slated to do decently at this point. Just really the Waning Rift, the major, interval where he's threatened to die. having that time walk available to him. Dazzle, pretty damn good response to the Void. Both the Weave and the Grave kind of offer counters to the Chronosphere.
Well, the Faceless Void has a really good combo with the ET. Just being able to set up that guaranteed Earth Splitter. There are very few things that can mess with that. One of them is the Grave, but kind of interesting to see the Dazzle in this third box. Like, being able to save up against a Finger of Death or save your buddy's Chronosphere is kind of nice value. But it does kind of the hero offensively needs some help, and you really don't if you can avoid it. You'd rather have a hero with a little more offensive power. Again, just looking at the Winter Wyvern, a very similar hero as far as what she can do save-wise, but actually has some laning power. This Dazzle Clockwork setup requires Clockwork to get cog traps on people in order to get the Shadow Wave to actually do some damage. So Mind's Eye going for a little bit of a lighter support crew here, and Saren are going for a hero that you really do need a lot of damage to kill off in that Viper. Ooh, Mind's Eye, they do play Shadow Fiend, turns out. There you go.
You ask and you shall receive, I suppose. One other thing to mention is, I say Dazzle effectively counters, in quotes, the Faceless Void, but, there's a dichotomy there. In some ways, Chronosphere is a counter to saving heroes who are going to be standing behind their cores if you can place it properly. The Dazzle pick is a bit peculiar to me. It makes a little more sense once you add the SF into the fray. You've got that minus armor synergy there. But yeah, I would agree with you that there's definitely some potential for the Dazzle to just simply be run at. Elder Titan, Viper, Faceless Void, all sort of fit that mold. And really like the Viper pick here. I mean, in general, how much of a fan I am of range cores plus Chronosphere, Clinks, OD, Viper, all kind of come to mind. And Viper certainly can kind of hold his own in the mid lane where maybe elsewise they've had trouble. I mean, Ched early on in the day dominated his 1v1 matchup. In game 2, he didn't necessarily dominate it, but he at least attracted a ton of support attention over. And then you have Fuzzy Sloth and Aesthetics in the side lanes doing very well. So looks like Siren or Inverse After, whichever you want to call them here, really looking to kind of shore up their mid lane to allow their supports to really do what they intend to do in the side lanes early on.
All right, I changed my mind about this. I figured it out. First of all, CK Dazzle is definitely a threat. Illusions or not, you will be able to activate the Dazzle's offensive power with the Shadow Wave. Again, it's not the best nuke in the world, but it does get the job done. But this Dazzle is looking more and more like he's just about his ultimate, the Weave.
Yeah.
Because Saren have a lot of physical damage. And Viper has kind of mixed damage. Lion has some magic, but they're all about that physical. And with Elder Titan, the way that the natural order works is that you take away their base armor, but that, I don't believe, takes away the Weave armor. So if you are hit with the defensive Weave, you still will have a lot of durability up against these right clickers. So definitely a kind of easy to overlook aspect of the hero in his ultimate, but man, it can do some serious work, especially when you're talking about weaving up a CK, which typically has a lot of HP. So going to be a little bit of a tough one for the Saren side. It is going to come down to the lanes once again, as they do pick up the Juggernaut for their safe lane, but I'm not really sure if this is enough power to actually kill off the puck. Like, the only hero they have to poke the puck is the Lion. You're not going to win any damage trades there, and actually killing off the puck is really difficult because you don't really have a ton of disable here. The ET's disable is more so for setup than anything else, and Lion only has so much duration for the spin. So we might see a very similar game to game 1 where Aesthetics just is not in any danger.
Yeah, and they kind of do shore up the lack of kill potential on the Void with the CK pick as well. Dazzle's certainly not a major threat to the Void early on. Although you do kind of want damage over time, because early when the time walk cooldown is large, you don't want to burst him because he'll just reverse that. So you do some damage over time with the Poison Touch, and that can certainly at least bully him out of lane. But now adding in the Chaos Bolt there, they have some certain kill potential. Some part of me expected this ALCN Void to be safe lane. But with them picking up the Juggernaut, obviously that's not the case. And I got to agree with you for the most part that, even hitting a Lion Disable into a Stomp doesn't necessarily guarantee a kill on the puck. You really do need a lot of damage to come out from that Blade Fury, and that's just hard to net on a puck. Another thing we, didn't mention, but should be rather apparent from the pick screen is the good old Clockwork SF combination. They haven't been very good at it, only getting 2 cogs per per cast thus far, but I'm sure they're rocking a good amount of confidence here considering their first couple games of the day. And they get the third. Oh, they can't get the third here. So
those are like, hey, dumbass pings if I ever saw them.
Get ready. The good old get ready chat wheel.
But yeah, I too thought that the Faceless Void was going to be going towards the safe lane.
There
This
they
Void
go.
off lane is certainly durable enough to be worthwhile, but we could see even the Radiant side thought it was going to go safe lane because the last ban they made was Brewmaster, which would have been just a lot of extra team fight. Doesn't really play the best with the Faceless Void, but I mean, looking at Brewmaster, even looking at some of these kind of what we'll call them trashy heroes like Darkseer nowadays, like comboing up with the Faceless Void and the ET, like that's how you really get some serious value. So I feel like the Dire side, they are going to get a little bit more scaling out of this type of setup, but it's going to make their entire draft just a little bit more risky. And I'm not really sure if after game 1, risk is something that they should be really comfortable taking as far as the early game is concerned.
There's always something to be said at high-level Dota about ease of execution of the lineup, and certainly kind of the last few picks there don't necessarily hold that too high as far as priority goes. But in towards the mid lane, Chad Dota, 15. He had 15 souls in his back pocket, so he should be all right here early on. We'll see. If they bring in any help for this Viper. ALCN doing the old pre-7.07 dance, which is to sit in the trees. Not quite as effective post-deny changes, but we'll see what he's able to get out of this lane. And similarly, Aesthetics up in the top lane. He's already orbed here, so needs to be very careful making his way into the fog. But, as we've alluded to repeatedly thus far, still does feel like a very difficult kill on this puck.
Kirito's taking a lot of damage here, but long range raise was already used, and those extra souls giving Shadow Fiend just such a disgusting damage advantage over Viper. Who's, I mean, if he had old Nether Toxin, this wouldn't be like that big of a deal, but seeing as though his entire like last hitting kit is built into his poison attack now, as far as that old Nether Toxin is concerned, means that he just doesn't have enough damage to compete up with Ched. He can out harass him for sure. He is going to have some pretty good harassment at that, but he's not going to be winning any contests here. Aesthetics is forced to TP out from that
really
wild
nice play.
Chase, so he is being kind of kept out of the lane one way or the other. The Dire at least handling that a little bit more effectively, but this mid lane for Viper needs some help, and they are going to send it to him.
Yeah, he did have 12 denies from the cogs, but still you're looking at 9 and 6 to the 5 and 1 SF to Viper respectively, and Aesthetics creating some space there, but should now notify his mid laner that a lot of people missing from top. They do get inbound with the Impale here, and they'll get a little bit of slows, but no stomp available for the Titan. TP's inbound from the 2 supports of the Radiant side will ensure that Ched continues to have a good time, and that'll be communication to Aesthetics as well, that he can start to play up forward in the lane as he eclipses the level 2 mark. Similarly though, ALCN bottom lane grabs his level 2 on the Void as he finds some much needed time under the wave, and now under invisibility is Dire side Lion. And now that I say they have the stomp available, the mana's kind of short, but Impale flies out, and yeah, without the stomp, again, still a very difficult kill. Level 1 Lion, so no Hex, and the mana was short for the Titan for the stomp, so very difficult to kill off this Aesthetics puck. Again, proving to be a nuisance. And mid lane, Kirito in trouble. Fairy Fire is there from both sides. Ched, though, he's slowed out. He misses the raise. This may cost him his life, and it does. Ched gonna end up dropping. Kirito draws the first blood on the Viper. Mid lane.
Choked there so hard. Like, not only did he miss the raise, but he also canceled his attack, which otherwise would have just gotten the kill. So yeah, he like wanted to get the kill with the raise because it's like a little bit safer, I suppose. Just back off and stop exchanging hits and then just get that nuke damage. But he kind of got into his own head there and costed him the kill.
Either way, he makes his way back in towards the mid lane, but a nice win early on for Kirito and his squad. Gets him not only, the experience advantage in this mid lane, but the bonus gold from netting first blood as well. 4 minutes in. Not quite the bloodbath we saw in game 1. I think it was 9-7, 9 minutes in, but there's still always potential for that. Fuzzy Sloth doing CK things in the bottom lane, hitting creeps, and being a danger to the enemy offlaner, who's still sitting on level 2 here. Aesthetics has found his level 3. Not much impact felt by the Clockwork here early on as he makes his way towards the mid lane. Could be a timely rotation in from him as the support duo of the Dire side looking to threaten out the SF. Stomp will connect, but it looks like pretty much in the fog for Ched. And now Cogs go out mid lane, just keeping the Viper back. Impale does fly, but Ched, I mean, he's going to just try and throw a couple of raises into the line. Connects with one, and one will hit on the ET as well, but that will back out the aggression from this mid lane.
Really good thing that the Viper got that kill, because he is kind of getting dumpstered here. Obviously the denies are inflated Cogs earlier, but still Ched is getting a lot more CS. He's still getting a lot more denies, and ALCN, bottom lane gets finished off by a big crit. Reality Rift, Chaos Bolt, level 2, so not taking any chances with the nuke damage and the stun duration here for the CK. They get themselves a Faceless Void, who, much like in last game, is having a pretty rough time. Not as quite a bad a time, because CK by himself will never really be able to kill off a Faceless Void consistently by himself, but it's still not a picnic for him. And Corrido, he's trapped.
Mid lane, yeah. They get the Cogs off, and he will be dropped. What? Now Battery Assault is there for the Lion, but they don't press forward. Yeah, odd impale, but, you know.
Didn't matter. Didn't matter. It was okay.
Doesn't matter. Still alive. Aesthetic stopped lane level 4 on the puck. ALCN after dropping bottom lane. Does have a wave coming under his tower, so should be near that mark. TP inbound again. Mid lane to the Viper. And 6 minutes in, things starting to ramp up a little. Radiant do scout a Haste Rune bottom. Clockwork picks that up. Has a smoke if he chooses to use it as well. And ALCN trading with the CK. Bottom lane. Reality back into the Chaos Bolt. Do they have anything further? Clock nearby with the Haste Rune. They'll just let him look to finish this off. Battery Assault is there. ALCN in trouble. Brought down. Meanwhile, mid lane moving in under the cover of a sentry. Smoked up. Again, this attempt on Ched's life in the mid lane. He steps down now for the raise. Could be in trouble. And they will guarantee the stomp here. Now a couple more right clicks in. Raise will connect. Dazzle is there, but no Grave skilled up. Just the Shadow Wave there. And they do end up getting Ched.
Well, as far as kill trades are concerned, still pretty good for the Dire side to be making those exchanges. They would really need to get some more farm, though, on this Viper. It has actually surpassed the SF's net worth, which is rather impressive, all things considered. A little bit of help from the allies, but of course, every single time those heroes rotate out, that is pressure that's being taken off of Aesthetics, so it is definitely a little bit of a juggling act here for the Dire supports, because it seems like with the nature of these lanes, their supports are kind of needed everywhere at the same time.
Yeah.
And obviously, that's not really a possibility. Whereas bottom lane, like looking at it for the Radiant standpoint, CK doesn't need help here. Like, he's just fine in this lane to just sit back, chill, and farm. He'll get some help if they're looking for a kill on the Faceless Void, but you don't always have to look for kills. Sometimes you just want to sit back and kill creeps instead.
Yeah, and they can always begin to stack for the SF. There's a triple stack at least of a medium camp over in the Radiant jungle, and Ched should be okay as far as recovery goes. Viper certainly not as bad as he once was as far as coming back into the game and farming with the Nether Toxin, but he hasn't put a single point into it up until this juncture in the game, so doesn't quite have that tool ready just yet. And kind of a similar story to game 1 here, Mike, where they sack Ched a little bit and ensure that the side lanes are doing well. Again, Aesthetics 26 CS, he had about 30 at this point in the game. I also had a solo kill on the Luna in game 1, so not nearly as bad, but definitely getting more than what he needs out of the early game in the offlane position for the puck. Bot lane, they'll go out onto the CK, or onto the Void. CK grabs the kill. Stomp connects onto 2, but it's a little bit too late to counter initiate. And now Invis Rune on the clock was looking to gain more for his Radiant safe lane. They'll wait for the wave to encroach under the tower and then perhaps look to flank. TP into the shrine from the Void. Astral Spirit will go out. Clockwork will be able to dodge it so as not to tip them off, but a little bit deep, it seems, for kill potential for the Radiant here. No Rocket Flare available to scout for them as well. And ALCN will begin to jungle on the Faceless Void. Long gone are the days of the Iron Talon, but still can kill jungle creeps, I suppose. Quelling Blade.
Lifestyle, not an item. Oh, they've got the lion again.
Impale only connects onto the CK. The right target to hit with it, though. Battery Assault. Well, Chaos Bolt will be there as well. And Battery Assault does not finish him off. Now ALCN rotating in. No Chronosphere available. Fuzzy Sloth in a little bit of a precarious position, but still feeling very strong. Going to Reality Rift forward onto the Faceless Void. Chaos Bolt finishes off the line. Nice set of cogs from Avatar. Will push back 2. And that will sound the retreat from the Radiant as Aesthetics is even TP'd in. Now Reality Rift back onto the Viper. Coil will be there. Waning Rift is there. Stick charges not enough for Corito. He snaps the Coil as well. Somebody teach this squad Dream Coils changes. But he likely would have died there regardless. Ched in the meantime, AFK in the mid lane, pushing in the tower. Top lane as Aesthetics TP'd out. Jug queues up the Healing Ward and will get his team their first tier 1. But the more important tier 1 going to go the way of the Radiant here, and they do take a team fight victory in the bottom lane as well. Setting up perhaps top lane. Poison Touch flies.
There's even a little bit of a mistake there from the Dazzle, I think. It looked like he teleported out just fine. I assumed he was alive, but died to Dots of the Viper with Magic Wand charges in the fountain. So I'm pretty sure he could have survived that, but you know, who knows what happens there. Either way, that exchange is still really, really good for the Radiant side. Giving that SF a couple minutes to sit back and farm. He is going to just start building up that nuker SF, though he has gone for drums, which I haven't really seen a ton of these SF games. Still, he'll be able to drop bombs, and for a hero like Faceless Void, who is just so susceptible to just being 100 to 0'd with any sort of setup, a Chaos Bolt, just a little bit of a silence from a Puck who is right around the corner from his own Blink Dagger. This SF is going to be pretty darn monstrous, and the CK, he already is monstrous. With the armlet completed, it's going to be really, really tough to ever kill him off, even though they do have a pretty good answer to... Well, Mana Drain does kill off Phantasm Illusions, right? Is that... I'm pretty sure it works like that?
Mm-hmm.
Kills off all illusions.
Hex as well, so that's those are pretty good. Didn't seem like they cared much when they picked the CK, though. I mean, one right-click kills a lion, right? So we'll see how it ends up working out in practice. Speaking of 100 to 0ing the Void, he has a Chronosphere. Maybe his team wants to look to go 0 to 100 with that, but for now, Omni Slash, you know, kind of unused. They're still leaving the Juggernaut in this top lane, showing in lane despite having already taken the tower. So really no threat of the Chronosphere, as you know, a lot of the damage is missing bottom lane, and Fuzzy Sloth will continue to push in towards this tower. It's just outside of deny range though, so he won't commit here as he sees the Astral Spirit. Joining him now, his support duo, however. And Ched takes his time in the top lane as well.
Everyone's kind of just chilling. This is a really good time for these supports. Both sides have had a pretty low experience game. Lion just now hits level 5, and level 6 on Lion usually gets you to level 7 pretty quickly, because with Finger of Death you just usually get kills. Clockwork just hits level 6, and that is perhaps the biggest level for the Radiant side. Dazzle's levels are pretty low as well, so in this downtime when everyone is just sitting back and farming, obviously the cores are getting items, but supports aren't going to have to just sit back and hide in the trees doing nothing. They can actually sit in the lane and absorb a little bit of experience here, so really, really big levels coming up, and they will look to maybe hookshot this Elder Titan.
Reality Rift just shy. It looks like he got fogged at being nighttime, but that'll at least body him back to secure the tower. Last hit was gained there by Fuzzy Sloth, who is just behind his SF. So after Ched, you know, dying there in the mid lane a couple of times, a lot of attention spent his way. He assumes the top of the net worth position even over the AFK. Juggernaut, we talked about his ability to come back with stacks. He also got the right click, last hit I should say, on the tier 1 tower in the mid lane, and a little bit of space when that bottom lane engagement was going on. So Radiant should feel very comfortable. Even Aesthetics Puck, once again, just getting a little bit too much free space in the top lane is pretty much at parity with the Viper. Yeah, Fuzzy, maybe looking to jump forward. Time walk up to the high ground. We'll keep him safe. Rocket Flare will scout him briefly. Still has another time walk in just a second. He's going to get coiled, however. Will time walk it off. Looking for the TPL. Can Fuzzy Sloth get in there in time? No. And the Void will be able to make it away. So, rather large sweeping rotation coming out from the Radiant. They won't gain anything from it. And Juggernaut makes his way down to the bottom lane. Void survives, so slight win, I suppose. They'll get the Lion very close to level 6 as well. In the meantime, he picks up a haste rune and maybe uses this haste to ensure he grabs the experience out of the mid lane.
Jug picks up Battle Fury as well. So in that meantime, when everyone on the Radiant side are looking for kills, and they'll find themselves in a good spot to take down this tower, but this is perhaps a little bit more relevant coming out from the Dire side. Is this game, clearly no side is super eager to go all out aggressive versus these towers. So the downtime to farm up a farming item for the Juggernaut.
Chrono available mid.
Chronosphere in mid. Yeah. Should be a dead clockwork here.
Yeah, Viper Strike, they will spare no expense to bring down Avatar, and Kirito the one to find the kill with the Viper. And certainly can understand that urgency to use the Chronosphere here early on. Time walk back. Coil does connect onto 2. They'll whiff on the stun. Phantasm comes out as well. Hex is going to be there, not onto Illusion, however. It is onto the CK himself. And
I want this Void so badly right now, but I don't think they can catch up. Man, this darkness, this nighttime phase has saved the Dire side so many times from Reality Rift. Obviously, the cast time is a little bit deceiving because the animation doesn't really mean you casted it yet. But at any rate, they are going to just lose the Lion. Not a terribly huge deal, but the Chronosphere is also down, and that's probably the bigger deal, which means that these heroes in mid are going to be feeling comfortable enough to just push in and clump up as much as they want, because what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, Weave is popped onto the CK, and he is just continuing to be tankier. Now jump forward, Raze, just okay. I see it.
Spawned also.
Just saw a dead Lion, didn't really see how it happened. Just looked like a Raze killed him.
It was a Raze. I think it might have been 2 Razes and an orb.
Invisibility.
No orb, just 2 Razes and just dead. Sometimes the fight recap does not lie to you.
So they'll get a kill and a tier 2 tower with the Weave there. Really no potential for them to be initiated on. Chronosphere on cooldown, as you touched upon earlier as well. And Blink Dagger picked up by the Puck. So follow up there in spades if the CK looks to go in. So yeah, CK, he's missed a couple of Reality Rifts, missed in quotes. First item Moonshard or what?
Someone's got to get that night vision going. You know, you have Flare and Orb. You probably don't need it, but man, it seems like he kind of does need it in these situations. This SF is going for a pretty interesting just right-clicky based build, and most of the SFs I've seen from the casting chair at least have been very nuke heavy, very movement speed, and kind of just caster, but gonna play like the old SF, and I don't really mind that all that much. I mean, he still has a giant boost in damage from the Necromastery, and an even further boost damage from Presence of the Dark Lord. If you want to right-click things, man, go ahead.
Yeah, he'll, alongside, with the Dazzle and alongside the CK, definitely seems like physical damage kind of the intention here for that Radiant lineup. Usually see the Dragon Lance, but I guess he stopped off for the drums, a bit of extra move speed perhaps for his Clockwork to chase, things of that nature. Speaking of that Clockwork, pretty deep behind enemy lines here, and they do have vision down in the lane, but didn't have any support inbound immediately, so unable to hook up with that Elder Titan. However, maybe the Void, the alternative target.
Up into his base though, and Viper and Lion are also not actually getting gold in the meantime. Juggernaut, much like we saw last time, that
hookshot is gonna whiff, and he'll rewind all of that.
And he's gonna walk out of the jungle to be like, "Oh crap, I'm surrounded."
Alrighty.
No Centaur this time.
Yeah. So I thought that perhaps if he hid in the trees that his friends would once again bail him out, but certainly not this game, and bit of an odd cast of the Requiem as well. Still though, the advantage sure-handedly in Radiant's favor. Although they do have a Juggernaut in this game who's kept pace with the opposing cores, whereas, you know, the Luna in the previous game quite a bit behind. And, of course, always the trump card of the Chronosphere, excuse me. And that threat will, for now at least, force a reset from the Radiant side. Ched under the cover of Shadowblade thinking about it, trying to gain some vision for his squad. Dire Ward will drop. And it is going to scout the CK. Now, can they go in solo on him is the question. No sentry down for the Dire side just yet. So they do not see this SF.
I think they saw him go invisible, though. So they should know that he's maybe thinking about coming in. They have a sentry in the back for the Dire. The Lion has a sentry in his inventory, and he has more sentries in the quick buy. So they are as prepared mentally as they can be. And there is no clockwork here. He just showed himself off in mid lane. So now's the time for the Dire to try to use this Chronosphere. ALCN, you can see in this position, he wants to use it, and he's got a good opportunity right now for 2.
Aesthetics looking to counter-initiate, though, and they are well aware of that. They actually just forfeit the tier 2. Now, jump forward. The Blade Fury will be there in time. Jump forward. Chronosphere only connects onto 1. Coil's going to be there. Raze finishes off the Lion in the back. Stomp connects onto the CK, but the hook shot, it's going to find the Void. He does get pulled into the cogs, however. Kind of an odd interaction there. And then he time walks over to the east to safety. Much like the mid lane, it'll just be a tower and a Lion for the Radiant. But in this case, most of the Dire side spending their time in that vicinity, so not really finding trades as far as farm or towers go elsewhere, and the Radiant should be pretty happy with that.
The Radiant are going to be really happy about that, because once again, it's not about the kills, not about who died. It's about who used their ultimates. Cough, cough, faces Void. So no Chronosphere means that going for Roche is going to be absolutely free. They, I guess, maybe have to worry about like some Echo Stomp shenanigans, like in some situations, but definitely not this one. So they'll walk in, take the tower, take the Aegis, and of course that means they can go for more. I'm not really sure how easy it is going to be for them to push up high ground, take a tier 3, and start to look for their shrines as they've taken down all the rest of the objectives on the map, but still they will be able to just 5-man around and do so pretty comfortably. Actually, Fuzzy Sloth, he's ready to break some bases with this next item. He's going to go for a Blink Dagger on CK.
Yeah, and already in the front lines is the SF. He was just barely under sentry range, excuse me. As Aesthetics bottom lane looked to deter the push of the Juggernaut. Did take out the healing ward. Will jump forward with a Waning Rift, looking for more. Doesn't find the Void just yet. Time walk down to the south. Dazzle will get a look. Coil does not find either. Hookshot will, though. And it is going to be the more important target that they look to take out. An entire team bonding moment, soaking up the Omni Slash. And can't really blame the Juggernaut for making that spell cast, but he does end up dropping. And perfectly placed Rocket Flare from Avatar will net him a very important Juggernaut kill for his squad there. 1,700 experience going the way of that 5-sum of heroes just for the 1 kill.
You have to be careful about doing that in the future. The Juggernaut obviously got the Battle Fury for farming reasons, for split pushing reasons, but if you clump up too much, that cleave will do a lot of extra damage in those additional hits of the Omni Slash. So this time it's not going to really be a bother, simply because Juggernaut doesn't have that much damage just yet. But still, they take him off the board. They will be able to poke at the tower a little bit, but they do have to watch out for this Void. Observer on the high ground sees the Void. If they can snipe this hero, or I guess the Lion, poor guy. Well, okay, he's dead.
Yeah, remember we were talking about how Lion counters CK in some way? Well, Fuzzy Sloth, very cool play from him. He keeps his Phantasm Illusions in the trees, then makes over to the west, then blinks up, takes out the only hero that can really threaten them immediately. As Earth Splitter going to fly out, does connect onto 3. Ched Dota rather low, does have the Aegis, however, in hand. Chronosphere is available. Need to be careful not to clump here. Fuzzy Sloth, well, okay, they get 1, and they should be able to take out the Aegis here, but perhaps that's all, as Stomp does connect onto Fuzzy Sloth over on the west side, excuse me. They'll take out the Elder Titan in the meantime, though. Fuzzy Sloth forced to try and back away with the armlet. He may end up dropping here, and does, as Ched Dota forced to back out to the south under the cover of Shadowblade. So they lose 3 on the back end of it, and they won't get a tier 3 out of it. They'll only get the Elder Titan buyback, and after perhaps what was you know, a baiting Chronosphere. It was like, oh man, he hit such a bad Chrono. Let's keep fighting. But effectively did split their entire lineup. I mean, you had the puck here. You had the CK blinking over to the west, trying to take out the Titan. He got stomped, and then the SF was stopped in the Chrono right there. So, I mean, I guess it works. One buyback, successful defense for the Dire. Signs of life.
We saw a little bit of a similar defense in the last game, except the Radiant side weren't nearly as far ahead. Oh, they're looking for a Requiem on Takrito.
It's pretty close to hitting him, and in All Souls, they get one raise off. Cogs will bounce him back into the Shrine, however. Finger of Death finishes off the SF. Force Staff down from Avatar to the west side. We'll keep him safe for now. The Viper unable to follow. Juggernaut, though, with the Manta and the Phase, he may be able to just Omni slash him up here. There is a Dazzle nearby. Cogs nicely placed once again. Stomp, though, and the Impale will connect onto the clock. They've got the Hex jump forward. Mask of Madness popped. Shadow Wave will be there. Force back again from Avatar. Dazzle still very well positioned here. Gets the Grave off. Stomp does connect. Cogs are going to be there, though. Nether Toxin does end up killing off the Clockwork. Manta Style will purge off. Well, Waning Rift comes actually out after it. And with the Coil Snap, they get the Juggernaut. Oh, and that is certainly not worth it as Kirito tries to TP out. Can they get him back? No, no stun is there, just a Rift. Earth Splitter will connect. It is a Phantasm down, though. They certainly would like to get more out of this ultimate, as it's not as if Roche is up or there's any tier 2s on the map. So that Phantasm effectively is just going to be used for a Juggernaut kill. Still a nice kill to have, nonetheless. Highest value target on the map. But that's Chronosphere available for the Dire side, and Phantasm down for the Radiant for the next little bit.
It does seem like the Radiant are not interested in stopping. That Requiem was fairly bold. Viper, I heard, has a skill tolerant to Corrosive Skin, and they'll snipe the Courier on top side. ALCN should probably be okay here. The Clockwork, however, is actually coming in. Vision gained. They know exactly where he is. CK has a Blink Dagger, and Reality Rift on top of him. Oh no, that's not a good Thunderdome for the base Void, and he's gonna get a bash, and he can't time walk in time. Oh no, that means no Chronosphere. So that's one way of pulling out a Chronosphere. Just beat the hell out of him in the trees.
Okay, so he didn't have a TP regardless, but you might want to think about time walking west there so that he didn't have to turn. I think he may have gotten it away, but I mean, that's just insanely edge case either way. They wish they should have had another excuse me, Rocket Flare to kill him off. Frog in my throat.
And they're just gonna keep on camping these lanes. And the Elder Titan is able to push back these waves pretty easily just by doing exactly this. Juggernaut and Viper can very easily clean up, so it does seem like the Radiants, they really aren't interested in playing this long game. Just, you can see that by the way they're moving their heroes, by the attempts they're going for, but it does seem like they'll have to just sit back and wait for Roche. That's the way for them to break up high ground, or find a random hero in the middle of nowhere farming a little bit too much, like this Juggernaut who just walked right by an Observer.
Shadowblade is soon to expire, though, for Ched, and he will have to back to safety. We did see a show of discipline in Game 1 for the Radiant side, as they had a massive advantage, but still just methodically kind of took the tier 2s out, took the Shrines out, took Roche thereafter. So although I agree they looked a little bit more perhaps eager in this game, with the potential to have a secured spot in the closed qualifier, still just kind of hanging back here, waiting for their opportunity with the Aegis. Roche minimum spawn a minute from now. Aesthetics did pick up the Aghanim Scepter, Mike. We've seen a lot of kind of odd snaps of the coil. Maybe looking to take advantage of that.
I feel like that's the only reason why he has this Scepter. Like, it's not too uncommon to see a puck with Blink, Ags, Yules, but not Blink in the inventory, but not like Blink and then Ags and then Yules. So I mean, like, if the enemies keep on snapping it like voluntarily, you might as well upgrade it so that when they do snap it, they take a stun that's like 50 years long. So I don't mind that one bit from the puck. You know what? I'm okay with that decision. You'll have Yule Scepter pretty much now anyway. Isn't Yule Scepter about this much gold?
It certainly is, and pretty good counter to the Jug, I suppose. Now that he's got the Manta, can't really rely on the Waning Rift alone. So Coil being there. Aghanim's upgraded. Fuzzy Sloth smoked up mid. Does have that blink. We've seen him use it to great effect thus far. Again, like you mentioned before, just suffocating the dire side. And they are really unable to farm much. Jump forward. Coil is going to be there. And actually, very wisely so. The Juggernaut does not snap it under the spin. Now jump forward, though. Raining Rift with the Phantom's Illusion. The Impale is perfectly placed from the Lion, but even with the Earth Splitter and the Impale, they'll still get the Juggernaut. Grave going to keep the CK up. Shadow Wave's going to be there as well. Reality Rift forward looking for more. He does end up dropping. But everyone else was positioned to the west of that Chronosphere for the Radiant side. So it's a pretty clean extraction, it seems. However, looks like Dazzle going to be the sacrificial lamb for his squad. Does have a Grave available. They'll hex him up, though. Ensure he can't use it. And a crit will finish him. Does cost a buyback on the Jug, though, at defense. So despite, being quote-unquote successful, they do no longer have that Jug buyback for the next 7 minutes or so. And unfortunately for them, Roshan not ready to spawn. And even if it were, lane's not really pushed out to a position where it is in any way risk-free to aggress towards Roche. 1.5 minute spawn until Roche and Avatar did immediately scout it as his CK died with the rocket flare, so was aware it wasn't up.
It's going to be a very fortunate timing here for the dire side. They will have another Chronosphere by the time the Roshan is up. I'm not sure if they're going to feel comfortable enough to venture out and actually contest, but if they do get there in a good time, then they can definitely make a big fight happen with the Earth Splitter and the Chronosphere. But still, Fuzzy Sloth, if he is able to get a Cheese or an Aegis, really either one, then he's just going to be an unstoppable monster. He actually did end up snapping the coil, I think, of the Juggernaut because he used Reality Rift to pull him that additional, 5 range or whatever. So Jug at least almost learned his lesson. Unfortunately, still got punished there. Is working with a lot of value in the Mantistyle and the Basher. He can do some serious damage, but the problem is for the Dire here is that he's really the only one. Burrito finally has a Maelstrom, so maybe his farm rate is going to pick up a little bit, but as it stands right now, this Viper just isn't a relevant right-clicker for the Dire side yet. He needs a little bit more time to farm or the absolute nuts Chronosphere, and so far, they've hit only one guy every single time, so definitely a rough game to be this Void.
I think the one Chronosphere in the mid lane hit 2, and they still only got a single kill, so it hasn't been perfect. And in a big part, your strategy that you've assembled relies on your mid laner, who's a range core, getting a lot of damage into that Chronosphere, and simply your Void kind of being used for setup. And so, lacking that scary amount of damage on the Viper has really hurt them thus far. Well, with some vision on the cliff, they'll find an Impale into a Thunderstrike, and Thunderstrike. Did I just say Thunderstrike? Earth Splitter? What the hell was that?
Maelstrom kind of does.
Roche, space created by the Dazzle, as Roche does respawn, and so ultimately the Radiant will get what they quote-unquote came for. Aesthetics with an Arcane Rune, just shoving the bot lane from a safe range as his team eliminates Roche. And so perhaps just wait for an item or two for the Radiant side and get to work. But they do have now Cheese and Aegis up on Fuzzy Sloth. His BKB as well finished up, and soon to have a Butterfly for the SF. His Quarterstaff flying out, and indeed is. So he's got the full Butterfly. Really no reason not to press here. But with the Chronosphere, I think perhaps a wise decision. I mean, to some extent you would argue you want to use the choke of your high ground. But trying to fight outside the base here, they'll find the SF. He's not the one with Aegis, does have Cheese, but can't get it off. And they will be able to kill him. Hex from the Lion, trying to find the Clockwork, but he'll Cog. And will be able to extract themselves from the mid lane. So, it's an SF on off the battlefield for 60 seconds, but Chronosphere's off for 100. We'll see if they can get their lanes out sufficiently enough to where the Radiant can't take advantage of this window. But they're going to pop the Phantasm. They have a blink forward if they want to use it from the CK. And He's yet to find an opening, goes in onto the line, doesn't pop the BKB though, and gets impaled up. Can they kick out the Jug? They still do regardless. Waning Rift onto the Void, he's going to Manta it off, but now they're working on the Viper in the backlines. Fuzzy Sloth, one-man army on the CK. Seems like he didn't need anyone else. Gets the Chaos Bolt off, and with the Orb there, they kill off the Void, and even without Ched Dota, Fuzzy Sloth more than enough to put his team on his back.
And Aesthetics was split pushing before that as well in the bottom lane. They already took a tier 3 tower there. They can shove this wave in and slide bottom. That's no buybacks on either of the two dead heroes right now, so big opportunity here for the Radiant to do some structural damage or kill more Lions.
Yep. Lion does have the buyback, but again, his two cores in the Faceless Void and Juggernaut are forced to watch from the sidelines for this next little bit. And on the back of the Red Rider, the Radiant looking to punch their ticket to the closed qualifiers. Mind's Eye Gaming starting to work on this mid lane tier 3. And hook shot to the backlines is going to find the Viper. They can't cog him back just yet as he does get the Force Staff off. Stomp will connect onto 2, but CK is the only one they need fighting. He gets the Chaos Bolt off, will be able to kill off the Lion. Does get graved up here. Has the Aegis, will be armlet toggling through the grave. Poison Touch comes out. Stomp should finish him off. Meanwhile, Ched Dota's taking out the full lane of Rax in the mid lane. And a blink back to safety from Fuzzy Sloth will allow him to work on the third lane with his squad.
There's a Chronosphere and a Juggernaut. Now's the time.
Rod of Atos is going to find the Clockwork. Chronosphere does catch onto the Shadow Fiend, but do they really have any damage? He's so out of position. Stomp will connect onto 3. Juggernaut. Blade Fury is going to be there, but Ched Dota just going to walk away from it. They get the Clockwork in the front lines. Double raise, though. Finishes off mid-time walk, the ALC and Void. And now Blink Forward from Aesthetics going to silence up the Viper, and a jump forward from the CK with 2 beatings from his mace. Will finish off 1. Fully soaking up the Omni Slash, though, is Fuzzy. He could be in trouble here. Gonna turn and just... Yeah, he's got cheese. Let's forget it. Turn and just right-click into the Blade Fury Juggernaut. Now, with 3 heroes on the sidelines, the Lion just respawning. They should be able to take out the last Rax in this game. And Kirito, the captain of the last standing Mexican team, is going... A non-American team at that. Is going to raise the white flag here as Mind's Eye Gaming. They're going to punch their ticket to the closed qualifiers for the North American region for ESL One Genting 2018. Man, Fuzzy Sloth. What more can we say about this guy?
Well, he has a good CK and a good Razor. We've only seen 3 games from him. I'm a little bit more impressed with aesthetics on that puck. Like in this game, not having died, I mean that's always really nice. And if you're not going to die on the puck, I guess that's the easier hero to do it with. But it does seem like Mind's Eye played pretty darn well. I don't actually know who's in the closed qualifiers, but NA is actually not a pushover region. Yep. Some would say the best region, in fact. But I'm pretty sure these guys can take a couple wins here and there, but I'm not really sure how far they can actually go. It seems like they were a little bit careless at some points in the game.
Yeah, a lot of excuse me, a lot of ranked players here, as we see, and definitely showing kind of the skill gap. But as competition begins to stiffen, we'll see if they can carry this momentum forward. Did seem like overall a lot of great individual plays for them throughout the day today. Maybe the one sort of team-oriented play was that rotation in from the Razor in the second game where they really seemed to put it all together. But we did see just at some point in all their games thus far, at least one of their heroes getting out of control and taking the game over, whether it was Fuzzy, whether it was Ched on his Queen of Pain in the first game of the day. Aesthetics seemed to be solid all 3 games, you know, with the puck, 2 puck games, and the 1 Beastmaster game ends with no deaths here. So yeah, as you said, definitely a formidable foe, this Mind's Eye Dota squad, but into the closed qualifiers facing, you know, Leviathan, Wheel, teams with certainly a lot more experience behind their back. We'll see how they end up fare. For now, I mean, this night's going to end up well for them. They are qualified for the ESL One Genting North America closed qualification bracket. We still have one more best of 3, guys, coming your way this evening. Unfortunately, that is scheduled for an hour and 10 minutes from now, and I don't see anything saying that that's changing. Mike?
Just start it early, and everyone will be fine with it.
We certainly would. We'll see if the players are available. But yeah, scheduled for an hour and 10 minutes from now. I'll leave the stream up for the next 10 minutes or so, guys. And if we get an announcement, we'll let you guys know if that's going to be happening earlier. If not, still one best of 3 to come your way this evening. There's 2 being played. We will cover one of those. And that is scheduled tentatively to start around an hour from now. Hope you guys have enjoyed the cast thus far here on ESL Join Dota Blue. ESL One Genting Qualifiers brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, Mike Loris, and MRP. Here we thank you for joining. Throw you in the wait screen for a little bit, guys. Hopefully I'll have some good news for you shortly. In the worst case, we are going to be coming back in about an hour for the last set of best of 3s of the day.